Welcome. I'm Jonette Crowley. I'm an author, a shaman, a channel, and now a grandmother in the Native tradition. And I'm welcoming you to the Keystone Dialogues. Keystone because I'm in Keystone, Colorado at my ski condo, and I'm looking out at a beautiful valley. I'm on the shores of the Snake River in the Rocky Mountains. And for years, I've been having friends come to Keystone and ask questions of my spirit guide, Mark. And it's been a few years since we've done it, so now we're moving to Zoom. So let me tell you a little bit about Mark, and then I'll introduce today's questioner, my partner in these Keystone Dialogues for today. Um, I've been a channel for 35 years. And Mark is a guide who came to me in 1989, and he's not physical. He's not a he, and Mark is just some easy handle that I have for calling him something. But he said when he first came that his mission is to help humanity uh, evolve to higher levels of consciousness, to understand higher dimensions, so eventually we can know God or know divinity, know our divine flow. And so for 31 years, I've been channeling him, and he has a scope of abilities and answers far beyond what I can ever process. Of course, he's limited by my vocabulary and my understanding, so it is a joint translation here. And this is the first of many interviews we're going to do, and they'll be available on YouTube, on my Facebook page, perhaps on my website, jonettecrowley.com. We want to give these out freely. I want to take this opportunity to welcome my birthday brother. We're exactly the same age, Andreas Hoffman, who's coming. He lives in Switzerland, but he's coming to us today from Tenerife. So welcome, Andreas.
Yeah, happy to be with you. So I have been also for a long time on the spiritual path, have been following several channelers, have been questioning. I'm more like an indigo personality. That means I'm not just a brave follower of somebody, but I really want to investigate, get it by myself, and have the idea of a teamwork. Also with higher guides, because you never know who you are really channeling. That's a very fascinating question. And my questions, and I've been working with Jonette closely for the last 10 years, and being part of the Mark team, so to say, as Mark says, that we called him into being. We are calling him into being, and we have a contract with him even before we incarnated on Earth. So he's a kind of reflection of us, of our community in the higher dimensions. And this is very fascinating. I found my spiritual home there for the last 10 years. And I'm very happy that Jonette is so genuine and open for questioning also. Not just she doesn't want to have just followers. And she's very authentic in her own development, because we don't want to be perfect humans. We want to really evolve ourselves with all our, with all what we have, yeah, all parts of the dark parts as well. We don't want to hide them. Like in this new age or new cage movement, where all is light and love and wonderful, and the beings and everybody is channeling Archangel Michael or Master Saint Germain, but nobody knows who is that true. So you have to come to the self mastery. That's the measure, if you want to follow that. That's what I feel with Mark is his purpose.
Wow. I mean, thank you, Andreas. And it's just such an honor and a privilege um, because you are such a researcher and you have dedicated yourself to looking in nooks and crannies of information and kindly sharing them with me because I don't have time to look in nooks and crannies. I love it. You keep my blinders open. But I am trying to be a perfect being, darn it. I don't pretend that I am, but I have that objective, whatever perfect is. And of course, our job is all of us to be our perfect, unique selves. So I have, so for
As
you,
perfect as possible, but not pretending to be perfect. That's what I mean. Of course, you want to perfect yourself, but not pretend that it could ever be that you are perfect.
all right, we are on agreement there. So
Yes.
what we're doing, I have no idea what Andreas will ask, and that's so that when he asks the questions, there's as little Jonette personality in it as possible. And again, Mark is my partner. He's limited by my scope, my vocabulary, how big I can get to bring him in. And what I'm noticing is that it's much more than Mark. It's not he's never called himself a singular being any more really than we're singular beings. We are reflections of so many levels of consciousness. So our hope in this series of Keystone Dialogues is to explore and hopefully find some kernels of insight that help all of us. So Andreas, thank you for being our first Keystone Dialogue person. All right, let me get ready and you can ask the questions. Welcome. This is Mark. Our greetings to all who have a broadening mind in these times of great change. For the broader your mind and the bigger your heart, the more you're knowing, the more your truth, and the more you can choose to live outside the confines of continual suffering. So we will see what these questions hold, and thank you.
Yeah, I'm very honored to work with you as a guide and teacher for many years now. And I want to get to know you better. That's my question. I want to get more clarity. My passion has always been to be a networker between communities. And in this critical phase on Earth, we really are experiencing finally now that these different communities are getting closer together. And that's fascinating. And I want really to ask, what is Mark's contribution? What is his specialty? What are our abilities that we bring into it, and how can we communicate them? And I
That's
found,
enough. Let's start with those questions there. You may have to repeat some of them. So let us
yes,
start with the question, getting to know us better.
yeah,
Just as Jonette is a mouthpiece for many, 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 many people, her questions and what she does isn't for her, it's for this group. We, Mark, are in a higher dimension, and we are the mouthpiece for so many beings. We are never singular, and the conglomerate that uses us to speak to Jonette and all who we speak to, because Jonette is just a translator. When you connect with us, we come directly to you. Jonette has words because she is experienced in this, but the energies do not come through her. They come through us to you. And us being not a singular Mark, but a broad coalition of beings that ever changes because of the needs of humanity. Our Mark Consortium, our goal is absolutely the ascension and evolution of humanity, the movement of humanity back into the mainstream of universal consciousness, where it has been at a side eddy in development, bringing it back into the fold of universal consciousness, because Earth and Earth consciousness and the ever evolving human consciousness is vital in the massive reawakening and restructuring of all universes. There is not that Earth restructures and grows, and then the universe is static. There is movement everywhere. So we are a coalition in partnership forever with Earth and Earth beings. We have never been incarnated. We are not from a physical world. We are coming from pure consciousness. And we are working because we come from pure consciousness. Although we work with you as humans and we have words and exercises and meditations, the way we work is connecting with your pure consciousness so that it begins to become awakened and acknowledged by you. So that's who we are. We have no history. We have no future. We haven't been together in past lives. We are pure consciousness in service and ever changing. So that's
Yeah.
that question.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm always amazed when we do the meditations with you, how specific you can describe what we might experience, what we are experiencing, even you have never been. So that, and you say you can hold this space for us, you can open that door, you can do magical things. So where is the interface? How do you get to know, to see into it? How do you perceive?
There is no interface when there is intermingling. We personify unseparated consciousness. We are taking on an identity for the purpose of communication. As unseparated consciousness, we are you, we are your experience, and not singularly. So Jonette can hold her energy, and she's getting better at holding more people's energy, but we are not interfacing. We are combined with your energy because we are not separated from it. So all of the experiences in totality are awakening and are joining in perhaps a certain goal. One class may have a goal of this, and everyone's lifted to that goal. So the intention is set in conjunction. It seems like it's our intention because we channel the classes, but the intention is set in conjunction with the higher dimensional realities of all the people, and not just all the people who are in the mark classes, but all people. And then creation happens. And that's why none of the classes are the same, because the intention and the creation quotient change every minute.
Yeah, that's the conclusion I also came to. We must have an agreement on a higher level that you can do all these things with us. Exactly, so that we really are one field together when in this intense, also individually intense transformation. And that's what I really honor with the work with you, that the focus is on your internal transformation. It's not just knowledge, it's not just information, it's really transformation. And another question.
Something we'll add to that,
Yeah.
just for understanding. Our goal has always been the transformation of human consciousness, because all consciousness is connected. And the transformation, and we have found that the easiest way for transformation is transformation itself, not learning about transformation, not practices in transformation. Those are very slow and winding roads. So we do not work with the intellectual part of the brain. We do not give teachings that need to be remembered or ceremonies that need to be repeated. We give transformational experiences, because as we said, transformation is the fastest way to transformation. Thank you.
Exactly. And I'm coming from the Taoist background, and that's exactly the Taoist philosophy.
All right,
They
now
always
your question, yes.
they always made fun of all these systems that were made out of Taoism or religion or anything, because it's just practice, it's just beingness.
And the beingness, as you have found, is not trying. It is mostly surrender, intention, and allowing. Everything that humanity has been taught is try and work and suffer to get to a goal of non-suffering. And how could suffering ever bring to a goal of non-suffering? How could non-happiness and total giving out of your spirit in service ever bring true happiness? So we try to bring you to the end point, and then the end point changes where you are now. Because it is all circular. There is no end point. It is the snake biting its tail.
Yeah, wonderful. The other complex of questions for me, how to ask the best questions to Mark, also in the classes, because I found out there are restrictions, and not to waste the precious time with you, to ask questions you are not specialized on, or you cannot look into it, because for us, there are burning questions at the moment with this transition on Earth. We are getting different informations in this battle between this old cabal structure and the so-called lions or white hats. What have they really achieved? So to get an idea about where we are really, we need more specific answers. Like some people say, oh, these underground tunnels under the Vatican, under Australia, they have been taken out, the children have been freed, and Soros and Clinton, they are not, they have been taken out, they are doubles now or clones. Or where are the restrictions, what you can look into? Can you look into specific questions like that? Or is that not your specialty or interest at all?
It is really not our specialty or interest, because it is, when we see all of that, it is, as they say, moving the deck chairs in the Titanic. What we are working is be consciousness undivided, where there is not white hats and black hats and duality at all. We are trying to bring that level of all whole, universal, healed consciousness into Earth, so that all that supports goodness, whatever you call it, begins to be empowered. So instead of working from the lower dimensions to get to a higher dimension, because that has not worked, we are working from a higher dimension, impressing it into your dimension, so that as this resonant field has more humanity as part of it, so more humanity inhabits this higher field, it becomes more magnetic to humanity and to humans' activities. So as this magnetic force comes toward Earth, or we're using linear words, then the magnetism begins to draw up the good and suppress the greed on Earth. So we are working here. So as much attention as we put into what's happening in the battle is actually counterproductive to what we do, because in the battle, the more we talk about it, the more we make it real. It is a reflection of the broken consciousness of humanity. And it's reflected not just in humanity, it's reflected in the ET civilizations and the off-planet worlds. It's reflected greatly, and it has become reality. It is a reality, but it's not ordained or permanent reality. So we can see into it. It just is not we don't want to give precious effort into working in that level. But we can look into it and give you some guidance. We're not against looking at that. And Jonette is always curious, so she wants to know what we say.
Yeah, so that is also um, my inner standing, that we have to live and create our new earth pocket by ourselves in these critical times, not to get into the field of this battle. How do you see the evolution, the creation of the new earth? It's for me, it happens in small communities, in very small pockets, and then this could be a standard for spreading it out. How do you see it happening?
It is absolutely happening. The embodied ascension movement to the higher dimensions, whatever you want to call it, is, we would like to say on track, but there is no track. It is absolutely happening. It's happening in pockets. It's happening in individuals. Mother Earth herself is changing so greatly that her energy field, the energy field of your solar system, is rising, and it is creating the chaos in the battles, and the darkness that seems to be showing itself now is created because it's time to come to the surface so it can be cleaned by a fresh wind. We at a higher level are not at all upset, disappointed, afraid for humanity's evolution. It is going beautifully. It is going better than was expected in 2000, 2012, 2008 was a big turning point, and that has continued. And we at the higher levels are actually delighted by what is happening. And you can say, yes, but there's destruction, there's more Nazism, there's more hatred. That hatred was always there. It's showing itself, and there is more support. There is more spiritual growth. People in their hearts are awakening, questioning the past, questioning the altar of money and materiality that they've been praying to. And there is a beautiful awakening. The new children themselves are carrying DNA that is very different than the DNA of you and your sister Jonette. And it is more attuned to the higher frequencies, more comfortable with the higher frequencies, less able to adapt to this world. Some of these new children have difficult times adapting, but the world is changing. It is on track. And it's happening in pockets, but it's also happening globally, because there's no such things as pockets in universal consciousness. Wherever there is a growth, it is immediately expanded into the whole field.
And how I have heard that in the fifth dimension, where Earth has long ago has been, maybe in Lemuria or even before, it was peaceful. The species didn't have to eat each other because they were supported from inside with energy. There was not this constant fear also for the animals to be chased and eaten. And when we make this transition, how will nature, how will the animals transform?
Let us invite you to a different perspective. There are a zillion worlds out there, a zillion realities. And the reality of Earth is immense creation. Every ecological niche is filled. There's algae growing at the bottom of the sea or in the solar ice caps. Every niche is filled. And in that is a huge expression of possibilities. And in the big picture, we want you not to personify from a human point of view an experience of an animal or a tree. As part of the color of earth, the rose blooms. When the winds in winter comes, it falls into sleep. Animals are killed, they go into sleep. They're in another world. So all of this is simply a palette of creation. There's no good or bad here. And even for humans, humans die and they go to a different level. Then they review and they choose what their next level is. And in that level, there is color and there is grist, and that forms new opinions, new growth, new opportunities, new compassion. So the new earth isn't going to be heaven where you're sitting on clouds strumming your harp, because it is the movement, it is the part of the struggle that is all part of creation here. And there is part of you that exists simultaneously. You have a linear view of time, that the past and the future don't exist at the same time, but there is an existence of you that is already enlightened. And that part of you has lost the part of you that is not enlightened has lost the connection. So the new earth is simply humanity awakening, and there's dimensional levels of knowing. So humanity lives in an earth where there's struggle and suffering. Let's just say the new earth has the same color, the same animals, the same plants, but there's not suffering and struggling. And there's not good and bad. We were once asked the question about, the suffering of the lion killing the zebra. And in the big picture, you cannot say who is right, the lion or the zebra. They were just doing what they do. The new earth is a place where individual humans have a choice to know consciousness that is pure and freer of suffering, freer of fear, and freer of greed. So if you can imagine living on this beautiful earth with your children and your grandchildren and your dog and your cat, and when things happen as they do, you do not suffer the happenings, because there's enough of you at the higher levels that is a master that just sees, it's dark now, it's night now, it's cold now, and doesn't suffer those. So we're not sure if we answered your question, but there's not going to be a bifurcation of worlds where there's an old earth for all the people who are dense and a new earth. It is an awakening and a opening of the gates between the levels, if that helps.
Yeah, for me, that plays into the idea of parallel realities. So we can live in a parallel reality, in a nature and in an earth which is completely different. And that is also a fascinating question. How much of critical mass is needed to make this parallel reality the collective reality?
Good
I
question.
think all realities exist already, but we choose them.
Yes. So your idea of parallel reality is a wonderful way to explain this. So the parallel reality that you're already awake and eating cherries every day is there. And as you individually know that world and feel safe, then you live this world more freely. It's much like, once you feel secure financially and your health is good, then you can really be you. So once you know from that parallel reality that all is good, then you can really be you on this earth. The critical mass question is an interesting one. It is unknown what the critical mass is, because not finite and it's not a number. But we at the level of non-human mastery see that the critical mass is already building. There is enough critical mass that creates more. So the vortex of this creational shift is on board to happen, and it's happening at the right speed. So like any kind of chemical reaction, it starts and starts and starts, and then it gets so big that most people will know themselves on a parallel reality or know themselves at the parallel reality and stay here, but feel the grace, feel that, oh, I don't have to eat. I'll just get the energy from the sun. I can be happy and not suffering. So it's happening. And we would like to say that the critical mass for having this on target is in place.
Yeah, that's why we are here. And another thing is this so-called reincarnation trap that was installed, that when humans died, they didn't go really to higher dimensions, but they were more like recycled. They didn't learn much in the other plane without this physical body, and then they came back and there was not much progress made. And how has that changed? Because when we want a new Earth, we need especially some kind of filter. Who is allowed to incarnate on Earth? Is there a change?
So let's first talk about the karma, the recycling without much learning.
Yeah.
As we have shown, Jonette, it's like karma has been, we call it horizontal karma. It's just been going and going, maybe up a little bit. And we've kidded that it's circling the drain. For thousands of years, you've been circling the drain. But as you understand, on Earth, there are power places. And in time, there are power times, because space and time are the same. So when you go to a power place, amazing things can happen more quickly. Earth is at, and a power time isn't just a minute place in time, it is an opening. So what the difference is now is there has been cumulative improvement or support that Earth is now entering a power time where there is an exit point where so much of Earth can exit out of horizontal karma into vertical karma, where you actually do improve and increase. So there's no filter required to, we're not sure if we understand that filter thing. However, we just want you to understand that why it's happening is because this is a power time. This is a time that's a shift in ages. And so much is going to happen magically. And what is different about this shift in ages and the shift in ages from Lemuria, from Atlantis, from before humans were even on Earth, is that all of the other times there was so much density that the shift of ages had to end in calamity. What was before was wiped out, and there was a new beginning. And this time, because of the impulse of this power place and power time, and you might imagine that Earth is a power place, not just Stonehenge, but all of Earth is a power place in the cosmos. And now this power place called Earth is entering this power time. So there's a double whammy, and there is a huge opportunity that seems unstoppable, that humanity and Earth will move through this evolutionary cycle to a new age without destruction.
Yeah, the filter thing is based on the idea that the Earth has been a vast variety. On the Earth has been a vast variety of souls, very advanced souls, very evil beings from crash landed from any kind of Star Wars. So when we are coming to when the being of Earth is changing and going into a heart-based consciousness, then I hope there is not the possibility, the resonance for these people who are ruling the Earth now to come back.
All right, we understand. The resonance is getting so high that it becomes impossible for even those who hold the darkest agendas to hold the darkest agendas. Their secrets are opened up, and their ability to hold dark begins to be transformed, because darkness has no creational ability. It has no power source. Darkness is always a parasite. So as humanity lifts its vibration, it lifts its, and Earth, as it lifts its vibration, the darkness, the parasites can no longer bridge the gap and reach the vibration to be vampires. And so their life force is taken away, and their whole structure system begins to fall, because they cannot support the way it's been. And then they too must lift, because there is no duality in universality. There are no subsets in the cosmos. So they begin to lift too. And what will be fascinating is the change of consciousness of a few of the darkest beings has a huge impact on evolutionary consciousness, more than 100 light beings becoming lighter. When some dark beings become light, it just makes this crack in the structure. So that hasn't happened yet. The dark beings now, and we're putting all kinds of ETs, all kinds of AI, everything in the dark beings and the dark part of humanity. Right now, it's at the place where it's struggling to hold on to an ever rising massive consciousness. And that's where it is now. And when the consciousness of humanity gets high enough where the darkness and the dark structures can't hold it, that's when the critical mass will change a lot, because it just takes a handful. We're not, we're using linear words of that which is dark to let go of its bonds, of its self-imposed hell, to create huge skyrockets in the ascension process.
I would love to ask now a specific question. To what we perceive from our perspective is that the mass media have been have been bought by all the same people. They are owning all the big mass media, social media, everything. So they turned it into a big propaganda machine that so much of the truth can come out, but it doesn't reach the masses because they are not reporting on it. So what is there a transformation inside the mass media? Do you see people uprising who want really to quit their jobs, or is there something that shows that there will be a shift? That for me is the biggest problem in at the moment with us, this propaganda machine, this mind control machine.
You are so right. The mass media is a mind control machine. And that is why our work to increase consciousness, so your intuition can give you guidance rather than what you read. Is it ready to crumble? No. It is in the position of consolidating its forces, battling any breakouts of it. So the mass media is still controlled and in control, but more people are finding ways to speak their truth. It's a double-edged sword. With the social media, that's there. There's much propaganda that comes out, but then people can truly connect. You can sit and have a conversation with someone in Beirut who you would never meet except on Zoom. So it is cutting both ways. We would like to say that the crash of the media control world is imminent. It is not. It's probably going to be harsher control for a while, and be personal, be vigilant in your own truth meter, your own, the opposite, your own bullshit meter. Be always listen and watch and read, and then stop and say, because propaganda only works when a good portion of it is true. and 60% is true and 40% is not. So really hone your own intuitive skills and your empathic skills, so you know who to trust, what individuals to trust, what messages to trust. So we would like to say that no, that's going to fall with the cabal, but that is it's strengthening forces right now, but it cannot silence all the other voices.
Yeah, we need an alternative internet. We need an alternative social media. So all the light workers have to shift to different channels.
And it's working. People are finding workarounds.
Yeah.
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 Dear brother, we
That's
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Would you like to make a closing statement, and then we will invite Jonette to make a closing statement?
It's a fascinating time, and it's an incredible support in a community like with Mark, where you always focus back on creating a different reality and not being influenced by what you see outside. That's so. I really love that what we are doing.
Thank you. This is Mark, and we thank you, and we'll bring back Jonette for a moment. Blessings to all from the higher parts of all. Thank you. This is Mark. Andreas, you just reminded me, this is Jonette. Mark has always said, he used this old analogy. He said, there's this old shack and it's beat up and everybody's in there. And he says, while everybody else is trying to put wallpaper on the old shack, the light workers, they're over in the other part of the woods and they're building this whole new place. And ultimately, the people who are fixing the old shack will say, this is only going to be an old shack fixed up. And they will begin to walk to the new home in the woods. And so that's what we're doing. We're simultaneously in the same world, and we see everything here, but we keep our focus on building what we want. And then when it's ready, and it's ready because more and more people are saying, I'm bringing my.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yeah. We're just adding more rooms onto it.
Yeah. No, we have to build it, and that was so incredible, wonderful that you took, that you supported what we do, and maybe we can ask you back with this big project.
Yes. So thank you for Andreas for being part of our first Keystone Dialogues, and Jonette's excited to really make this available for people because Jonette, see, I channel Mark so much, I don't know who is Mark and who's
Yes.
Jonette. I'm excited. Because, I have to say, it used to be that my consciousness was so much lower than Mark's, that there was hardly any merging. When he first came, I could barely hold his energy because it scared me. It was so big. And now over 31 years, I now know, and he now knows how to be in this place. So there's much less hard ridges between what's Jonette and what's Mark. So sometimes I totally mix up the pronouns. And I know someday he's going to say, Jonette, girl, you got this. I'm going higher.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and you guys got this. So I'm not looking forward to that but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but I know
Yeah.
it happens because we have to outgrow our masters to get to become masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you. Enjoy Tenerife, and we'll see you next time.